Your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital. It is Friday, the 1st of December, 2023. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. This is news to 6 a.m. on News Power Digital. Today is World AIDS Day, and on today's observance of World AIDS Day, the government says it will continue to support those vulnerable communities with increased availability and quality HIV services, both at the biomedical and psychosocial levels. It says reform of laws, policies, and practices to tackle stigma and discrimination will also provide means to protect persons living with and are affected by HIV and AIDS in all communities. Minister of Legal Services Unit, in collaboration with the HIV Workplace Advocacy Unit, conducted the first national consultation on legislation to govern HIV and AIDS in the workplace, which included tripartite stakeholders. The second consultation will be held in Tobago in 2024. Today, December 1st, the International Court of Justice will deliver on its order on Guyana's request for the indication of provisional measures aimed at preventing Venezuela from holding a referendum over the ownership of the mineral and forest-rich county of Essequibo. The ICJ said a public sitting will take place at Friday today at 3 p.m., during which Judge Joan E. Donoghue, president of the court, will read the court's order. The ICJ last week reserved its judgment to Guyana's claim it has evidence Venezuela intends to gain ownership of the mineral and forest-rich county of Essequibo through a referendum this coming December 3rd. Meanwhile, Guyana's opposition leader Aubrey Norton claimed the government needs to fight the border dispute issue with Venezuela in a more united way. Speaking with reporters earlier this week, Norton suggested a task force should have been formed to deal with the matter. He claimed his side is being left out and government needs to pursue this development with a collaborative approach. Back at home in local news, data collected by the Trinidad Tobago Police Service indicated a marked increase in the number of females affected by sexual violence between the years 2020 and 2021. These increases range from as low as 9% in the 15 to 19 age group to as high as 106% in the 30 to 34 age bracket. Minister of Social Development and Family Services Donna Cox made the disclosure during a presentation at the Women's Roundtable Action Platform, TNT's Elimination of Violence 2023 project earlier this week. Philip Edward Alexander has emerged successful in appealing a judge's order that he pay businessman Andrew Gabriel $0.7 million for defamation. On Thursday, Justices of Appeal Peter Rajkumar, Ronnie Budu Singh, and Maria Wilson set aside the orders of Justice Carol Gobin and ordered him to pay Gabriel only $10,000 TT. In May of 2019, Alexander was ordered to pay $525,000 in compensatory damages for hurt feelings and loss of reputation, and a separate award of $250,000 in aggravated damages over statements the former PEP leader made on a radio program and his Facebook page in February and April of 2017. In their ruling, the three judges said the first statement was not defamatory of Gabriel, while the second statement did bear a defamatory meaning in their proper context. The ordinary reasonable reader would have not construed the words to have referred to his family. Rajkumar, who wrote the decision, said none of the other Facebook posts were defamatory, so the judges' awards of damages could not be justified. And finally, overseas, a Ugandan woman aged 70 has given birth to twins, the doctor said on Thursday, in what the mother hailed as a miracle. Safina Namuakari described her joy at the arrival of the twins, who were born on Wednesday at a medical facility in the capital, Kampala, where she had received fertility treatments. He said babies and mothers, a boy and a girl, were still in the care of the Women's Hospital International Fertility Center that he founded, but were all in good health. And that is news to 6 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. We'll have major news coming your way at 7 a.m. Good morning. Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
There is a connection between government policy and law in the sense that all laws start as some type of government policy. So, for example, in Trinidad and Tobago, we would have had the recent national policy on persons with disabilities. And that policy talks in very strong terms about the need to both enact laws to provide for the human rights of persons with disabilities. It also talks about the need to amend laws that we have on our statute books right now that discriminate against persons with disabilities. So once that policy is adopted and approved by the cabinet, then the process of making it a law can begin. The difficulty with the policy remaining as a policy, two things. One, it's not enforceable. So it does not really give you any rights legally because it's just a policy, it's not a law. And the other thing is that policies can change over time. Policies can change over time as the needs of the government or the focus of the government itself changes. It can change if the government itself changes, so that it's not enough for us to say, well, we have a policy. We have to take that further step to make the policy a law, because that is what will give full protection for the human rights of persons with disabilities.
This first day of the wonderful month we call December. Yep, it is the first day of December. You know what that means? 24 days to Christmas. Thank you so much for joining us on the Power Breakfast Show. Full casting. We just did from Paul Richards with our news brief. With Wendell Stephen, he's logged on already. Richard Raghubar Singh will come in shortly. Ruben is washing his car. My name is Steve Cotton. All right, let's see what's happening quickly with the WTs, highways, and on the byway. I got nothing to tell you about in San Fernando, taking the solo up north, Chase Village. You've got some traffic as you head towards Sugar Guanas, a volume. And there is an accident northbound in Uriah Butler Highway just before Monroe Road. And there's another one northbound again just before Caroni. All right, so that's creating a little pile up there. Apart from that, a bit of volume from Trin City to UE, and after that is pretty much clear heading into Port of Spain. No issues to tell you about on the Eastern Main Road. Maraval is beginning to build, nothing out of Diego Martin. All right, checking our weather, see what our weather is going to be like for today. It is 23 degrees at Piarco International Airport. It is 24 at Crown Point in Tobago. And let's see if the Met Office has updated their weather forecast for today. It's supposed to be copy and paste of yesterday. They're saying sunshine will be interrupted at times by brief, partly cloudy spells with showers. Maximum forecast temperature for today, 32, Piarco 31 at Crown Point. Yeah, weather's going to be like just like yesterday on this first day of December. All right, let's see who sent us hellos. Yep, going through YouTube and Facebook. Oliver Man Warren, good morning to you. Rabbit. DJ Ray out in Tampa. Anthony Tinto out in Ontario, Canada. Garth Celia out in Baltimore, Maryland. Wendy and James out in San Juan. Carol Joseph. Miss Ingrid in Tucson, Arizona. Ewart Ratchpole. Dennis Bassard. Boy Bedesi out in Davie. Ray out in West Palm Beach, Florida. Good morning to you. Doreen Pierre, D. Pierre, good morning to you. Wayne B. in Covington, Georgia. Carol Guevara. Marcia Rock out in Florida. Beefy Smith out in Goodwood, Tobago. Maria Cillier. We have Michael out in England, in London. Sankofa, good morning. Brenda Isaac, good morning to you guys as well. You guys had a great evening. Yep. Oh, I got another one just popped in here. Dan Raj, good morning to you as well. All right. Good morning to you, gentlemen. What's happening? It's Friday.
Morning.
Yeah, morning, Steve, morning, Paul, morning, Richard, morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and good morning, listeners and viewers. It is Friday, A rainy Friday in Arima. We had some hard rain this morning around 4 o'clock. It came down very hard. And then around 5 o'clock again, it came back down. So it's coming down hard and stopping. I don't know if it'll continue. I doubt it.
Yeah. We have a sunny day today.
Yeah. But it woke me up. Well, it didn't wake me up because I was up, but it was very hard rain.
All right. Morning, Paulos.
Morning, guys. Morning, Zena. There's hope for us. A 70-year-old Ugandan woman gave birth to twins, Zena.
Oh.
With fertility treatment. Yeah.
Oh, not naturally.
Fertility treatment.
Oh.
Which is natural.
Is it that she wanted children at that age?
Well, you're not going to take fertility treatment if you don't want children.
At age 70?
I guess. Why not?
Okay.
If this only you could spark.
Well, I know with men it's hardly ever an issue, you know. It's not much of an issue, that is. You know?
For most men, for many men.
For many men, you know, but
some men it is.
I guess, you know.
Women have a biological clock that ticks much faster than men's.
That is a fact.
Although medical interventions have made it much easier for women to give birth later and later or get pregnant.
Yeah.
Or a child for two. But men generally they can go quite much. Yeah, that's
knock yourself out there, folks. You want to have a child at age 70? I don't know any woman who I can't begin to imagine any woman who would want to go through that torture.
Well, this woman
it's torture at age 27, far less at age 70.
Maybe she has the resources and the help and the support. Anyway, good morning also to Philip Alexander. Save some money.
Yeah, boy. He get through.
Good money.
He get through.
Let me tell you, it always
from
has
750 to 10,000. So there's hope for him in the other matters too. Then I guess he will be feeling hopeful.
That don't mean Andrew Gabriel wouldn't take a step further.
Well, I'm sure Andrew will.
Yeah.
I'm sure Andrew will, but let people know what you're talking about.
So Philip Alexander had been adjudged to pay in May of 2019 related to statements he made on a radio program and on 2 Facebook posts, I do believe, in February and April of 2017, saying certain things about Andrew Gabriel, who decided that he thought he was defamed, took it to court, and received in May of 2019, Mr. Gabriel received the judgment in his favor of $0.7 million, $525,000 in compensatory damages for hurt feelings. So you see, whether if you hurt my feelings, I could take it to court. Loss of reputation, and a further $250,000 in aggravated damages over the statements. Right? He appealed. And Justices of Appeal Peter Rajkumar, Ronnie Boodoo Singh, and Maria Wilson set aside the initial orders of Justice Carol Gobin, and ordered Mr. Alexander to pay Mr. Gabriel only $10,000. And that's why I said, I mean, Mr. Gabriel can say me going through that and take it further to the Privy Council.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that's where it stands as of now. So you only have 2 more to appeal now.
Only 2 more. That's all.
Well, there are some I understand that are in train that have not been adjudged yet. But the 2 that have pending matters, but the 2 that have received judgment in addition to the Andrew Gabriel matter is the Con member matter and the Makila Pandey matter. Both of which I think are around $1 million each.
Yeah, Con member that is $500,000, I think.
Yeah, but I think he get out of that one because I think he admitted to the court in the case. This is what Minister Ember told me actually, while we had in a tea break in the Senate, that he admitted that his source was the paper. Somebody tell him. Or something like that, you know? And Michaela Pandey also thought she was defamed by something he said. You can't just go around saying things. So
No, you
people get upset when people are challenged on this show. That's why you can't just say things. You have to provide evidence to support what you're saying. And they always say what you say in the understanding of the reasonable man should not be construed to destroy the person's reputation unless you have proof to support it.
Yeah.
Just saying things a million times doesn't necessarily make it true, you know. Just saying. All right, I ain't calling on you. So, today's World AIDS Day. I think we will get to the point pretty soon where the observance may only be a memorial, because it was started because of the global pandemic related to HIV and AIDS, which would have started in the late 70s, early 80s into 90s, when they did not have the level of antiretroviral drugs and treatments, and now preventative drugs, and like this. I saw one on the BBC this morning, a new version of something called PrEP that is being seen as extremely effective in preventing infection in the first place. It was tested on about 24,000 people and proved to be extremely effective, according to the article. So I think more and more as science and medicine advances, HIV/AIDS wouldn't be as much of an issue as it was 20, 25 years ago, because generations now, a 25 or 15-year-old now, or 17-year-old who is engaging in sex, or 20, I mean, it should be over 18, let me just say, right? But let's not pretend young people have sex, okay? And younger people, younger adults don't have the same kind of relationship people over 40 and 50 have with HIV/AIDS, because they didn't live through the devastation of losing friends or family members in a horrible way.
Yes.
They have a completely different relationship with the issue of HIV and AIDS. And that's why I said, as science and medicine advances, I don't think it will be the same kind of issue, because quite frankly, COVID was much worse in the globe than HIV and AIDS, because COVID, you didn't have to have sex with nobody.
Right.
You just had to breathe in air of an infected person. You understand?
Yeah.
And it spread much more quickly.
A lot of people died of AIDS. This is my opinion, because they were just ashamed and afraid to go for the treatment. You know.
You're absolutely right, Randall. And it still happens.
Yes. They were afraid of the stigma associated with it, and they decided, and they died. They got ill and died.
Absolutely right. Although there were early drugs available, they didn't want to walk into that part of the hospital.
Yes.
If they couldn't go for private intervention, they didn't want to walk into that part of the hospital. People say, "Oh my God, he or she going there."
Yeah, because they put you in a certain category once you have it.
One time. And then they move along and you talk on the back and now they start.
Yeah, they put you in a certain category. Because I could tell you, and I think I would have told this story on radio already, that I used to actually go for the medication for someone who was ashamed to go for it.
Wow.
And I said, "No, you're crazy." And this person led a normal life. This person got infected from their girlfriend, and he was devastated, and he didn't want to go. He was lying in the hospital dying, and I said, "You mad?" No, and I started to go for medication.
Very good for you, but remember, there's still a large misnomer in some people's minds, an erroneous presumption that because it started to be identified early, and even the medical people around the world, like WHO said, the way the pandemic was handled by the medical fraternity, tagging it specifically to the gay community, meant that people who were not gay felt they were safe and they could continue irresponsible sexual activity.
Exactly.
And now the largest new infective groups are women in a particular age group. I forget the exact age group. And men are not necessarily gay men or homosexual men or women.
Yeah.
So that idea that because you're not engaging in gay sex or same-sex interactions, that you're less at risk is extremely erroneous.
It is. It is. I saw that for
Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
You know, but
Yep.
he's more than about 10 years later. He's alive and healthy, and you wouldn't know.
Great
You
for
know?
him. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, now it's a disease that you treat like cancer or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Some diseases, if you have diabetes, you may have to take medication for the rest of your life, high blood pressure for the rest of your life. You understand?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's just what it is. And I think long ago, if I'm not mistaken, you had to take a cocktail of pills. I understand it's one.
Yes. Yeah.
So the science has changed, and it's much more easy to keep yourself healthy, etc. So
Mm-hmm.
And I also know too that back then it was a cocktail, and the minute you miss, it would have increased. You would have gotten more pills the next time you go. Now I
yeah,
think it's just one tablet, and
well,
for some people now,
the science has advanced tremendously. So
yes.
and so much so that the people's viral load is undetectable and they can't transmit it to other people. So it's a lot of advances have been made medically and socially.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
Yep.
Well, today at 3 p.m. UK time, which is a couple hours away, the International Court of Justice will deliver on the order on Guyana's request for an indication of provisional measures aimed at preventing Venezuela from holding a referendum. Well, whether or not they deliver Venezuela holding a referendum.
Mm-hmm.
So we start with that. And
Mm-hmm.
President Maduro done indicate already. He don't care what they say.
Yeah, he's going ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is about political survival for him.
Yeah.
This is about he has, and he's not very popular now. He has to, and any kind of land grab by a head of state, you get some kind of nationalistic, patriotic. But I look at the map last night. Is more they're taking more than they're leaving.
Yes, it's 3/4 of Ghana going.
Yeah. It's a vast. It's vast.
Yeah.
But they're taking most of Guyana, or they intend to take most of Guyana. Me say
Mm-hmm.
it's
that
3/4
is
of Ghana.
absolutely crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And in those parts, and that's why I know the Americans will get involved, because Guyana is rich in so many minerals, including oil and gas.
Mm-hmm.
And American companies, and by extension America, has a huge investment in being a part of getting some of those energy resources and minerals.
Mm-hmm.
So if Maduro feel Uncle Sam letting you walk in there and take over that, you have another thing. They don't do like you already.
Yeah.
Okay? They're waiting for an excuse. And guess who right next door?
Yep.
Guess who just northwest of all of that bacchanal? We.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We.
I know if somebody oil could flow underground and come here, I don't mind.
It is the same underground oil. What do you think? They have a wall between the oil and the gas between Venezuela and Tobago under the sea?
Some more can start flowing across it.
It's the same underground connected sources, just where you punch the hole and take it up from, give your rights to say it's yours.
I guess so.
Where you think it have a wall under there, a volcanic wall that's stopping the gas between the sea in Trinidad and the sea in the Dragon and the Manatee and all of that? No, it's the same volume of gas and oil under there that we all share. It's just where you punch the hole, where you have rights to punch the hole to bring it up. You understand?
Yeah.
So, and that's why I guess the government of Trinidad and Tobago is so adamant about this dragon deal and that deal, and because we need gas. Clearly, our ability to get gas out of the ground has significantly diminished over the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
And the gas will help us to boost our economy while we continue to just talk about that. Well, I shouldn't say so, because we have diversified to some extent, but we still are primarily dependent on oil and gas. So we have to watch that very closely, because we have significant interests in both countries. So never a dull moment. Never a dull moment.
I see there's still a raging debate over the comments of the opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar in terms of raising the age limit for gambling, and what was the other one? It's gambling
Marijuana.
and marijuana use. Yes.
Marijuana use.
Because see, the casinos have come out against it, and a lot of people are talking it. So I don't know if it might.
What do you think the casinos going to say, Randall?
Well, true. I know.
The casinos don't want no gambling law, They don't want a regulation,
Yeah.
You know that, right?
I know. But they all going down the same road that that we went down the other day too, and Richard raised it, is that, well, if you're 18, you're an adult. What is this about controlling now what you do as an adult?
Exactly.
What is that about? Yeah, what is that about?
That's it.
If we accept at age 18 you're an adult, then at age 18 you can do as you please as long as you're not breaking the law. So I know that I saw it thinking, and I don't know if we polled it. Did we?
No, we didn't.
Yeah. So it might be worth a poll if you think that the age limit for gambling and use of marijuana should be increased to age 25.
No, I understand why the NGOs and Dr. Randy C. Persad, who's a criminologist, said there is research, and I think Dr. Pottinger also met 2 or 3 years ago before COVID was on this show and spoke about the developing human brain in terms of the prefrontal cortex, that it is not fully developed before ages 24 to 26.
Mm-hmm.
And marijuana use before that inhibits the full and effective development of the human brain.
Right.
Science, no two ways about it. But on the other hand, you have to balance what you're saying and what Richard advocated. If somebody could elect a government and is legally an adult, you want to tell them what to do?
Yeah. So it could be a good poll because there are arguments. There are arguments for and against it. So it could be.
The arguments against it will always be people who are making money from it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Mm-hmm. Nobody who's selling marijuana, they want that age group between 18 and 25, them 7 years, who are in many cases hardcore smokers, to come out the market.
Yeah.
Same with gambling.
Yes.
They want to indoctrinate you in gambling, smoking cigarette and weed before you turn 50, so you can make plenty money out of you. That is too much time to not make money off of you.
Yeah. Thank God I've never indulged in either. I mean, I'd buy the odd lotto ticket, but I don't gamble, and I
went to Las Vegas
never smoked.
on 4 occasions, and I took $20 in all those 4 occasions, and I put it in the machine. I get the chips, and I say, when it's done, it's done.
Right.
And it's done in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's all I'm spending.
I never went back. I passed through. I could pass them casinos and watch them little old ladies and old men sit down the whole night, and all 24 hours a day.
Let me tell you,
you're going to the urinal, you will know, and Steve, you're going to the urinal, and next to the urinal, they have a machine to crank,
Yes.
Listen, the minute they come off the aircraft and watch it in your face.
They make it in your face everywhere.
People have been known not to leave the airport. People have been known to go to Las Vegas and not leave the airport.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
There's a reason they call it the one-armed bandit. Okay, so, and gambling, like marijuana use, like cigarette smoke, they are all addictive practices.
Yes. Like,
so when they get you, they want you to reach 25 and not catch you.
Don't leave out alcohol, because you know the
alcohol.
People
you're right.
You know
alcohol.
the people who
Another legal drug.
Yeah, because there are people who smoke marijuana and don't drink alcohol, and they get very touchy when you talk about smoking and not about alcohol. So alcohol is also very addictive. See, somebody already put it up. Somebody already put it on CPT saying, I know that it will come up. You understand?
Well, I know them cigarette company here despise me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just call them, should I use the word? I just call them the killers. I didn't use the other word. Okay? Because them know exactly what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Cigarette companies. I despise cigarette companies. despise. I remember when a bill was coming to Parliament about 5 or 6 years ago, I started to get calls from the lobbyists and what can we sit and talk? I said, we can't talk about nothing, you know. Because nothing you could offer me to make me change my stance on cigarettes. Cigarette is one of the most disgusting things humans ever invented.
I have been on record as saying if I ever become prime minister, I'd rate cigarette to about $1,000 a stick.
And people will still buy it. I would ban it. I wouldn't even raise the price. I would ban it. Let them kick up first and what kind of thing. I would ban it outright. Okay, outlaw. So anyway, but you're right. Those things are all addictive for a reason. They are mind altering in many ways. You know, and they have serious consequences over life and death in many instances. I mean, it doesn't affect everyone the same. But certainly the data will show there are very strong correlations between certain cancers and cigarette smoke and accidents, domestic abuse, violence, erratic behavior, and alcohol use. And destructive effects of the addictions related to gambling and destroying lives. I have a friend who, I mean, he's gotten himself together now. But let me tell you, I know people walk in a house on the weekend and take out furniture in front of children because the gambling habit was so bad, they owe so much money, you know, and can't stop, you know. You're looking for them in the horse racing pool and in the night in the casino, you know. And they know how to catch you, you know. Make you win 20, take away 40. Make you win 10, take away 20. Make you win 5, take away 20. How can you not see it?
Yes.
How you don't see it though? How?
And the gambler will tell you, but I win 200 today. Yeah, the gambler will tell you.
Late Patrick Manning was very much against the lotto system in this country.
Yes, he was against gambling on the whole.
Yeah, including lotto. But then he got the pushback and said, keep your puritanical ways to yourself. You understand? You can't police what others feel to do with their life. So he got shut down.
Yes.
Speaking of puritanical waves, good morning, Mr. Raghubar Singh.
Good morning, guys. And good morning to our listeners, wherever you are. Morning, Rich. Puritanical ways.
So you can't tell I don't have an addictive personality in that way. I could start and stop as I want. Well, I may not say that because sugar is a drama for me. So I said I ban myself completely from any sugar content intake because sugar is also very addictive.
It is a very addictive.
In all kinds of foods. It's a very addictive thing. And salt, that's where the popular chicken brand is selling in this country. That came in for a bashing at a town hall meeting the day before yesterday.
Yeah?
Oh, they call that brand name. They call that brand name over and over and over in terms of entities and health impact. Over. But then people need to understand, and it was about the health system. But one of the people in the town hall meeting at the GSC, and he made so much sense. He said, we've been advocating about trying to change people's lifestyle choices and what they eat and exercising without success. And what has worked, and he's absolutely right, is changing the environment. If unhealthy foods are more convenient and more available, what do you think people are going to choose? What? Yeah. So they talk about the healthy choices in 100 of the ISD supermarket. When you walk down here, that's where you see more than anything else. The unhealthy choices.
Yeah.
So that vegetable in the corner there, they put it far left most of the time, or far right. And everything by the cash register, unhealthy. The psychology of sales.
Well, walk through any one of those department stores in the United States. Ross, Marshall, TJ Maxx, Walmart, you name it.
Why do you think they put the cigarettes by the cash register?
It's
in case you forget.
Every sweet and snack available walking up that aisle to that cashier.
Look at the top of the country's most popular, or one of the country's most popular supermarket chains. Look at the top of every alley, one closest to the cash registers, and look at the products that you see at the top of those aisles. And look at the products you see by the cash registers: sweets, candy, confectionery, cigarette, soft drink.
Yep.
What you think is by guess? You think it's by guess today? Yes, they put in vegetables there.
Because you know what? You and I do it, it has happened to me. You carry your groceries up to that cash, and while you're waiting the cash, hey, let me take that pack of Skittles. Hey, let me take that pack of gum. Hey, that gummy bears.
It is there for a reason.
It has happened to me. It has happened to me. So.
And now I realize that they're trying to put Richard in trouble because they put in some new alcohol brand at the top of their miles now right by the cash register.
Oh gosh, Lord, Father Richard, Lord, I feel sorry for him.
Yeah, you have to put all the blindness to Richard, like, stay focused, rather than saying stay focused.
Richard, just come down my rum box, boy. We have it all.
Yeah, I'm not no big alcohol person. I've never seen alcohol closely registered.
No, but the alcohol lane is not far off, so you could be in the line and say, "Hey, look," and run across and grab it.
Yeah, but in addition to the alcohol lane, they're not putting some of the alcohol brands in front of the aisles, by the cash registers. So if you forget the punch in. Yes.
You mean for Christmas? Is that what you mean?
No, generally I find.
No, I haven't seen that part.
And the twice go twice see it. And if you forget, I go put some beers by the cash register freezer to be quicker freezers by the cash register. Not so.
I know for Christmas, what Richard describing though, for Christmas it happens. They put those things, it's shaped sometimes like a Christmas tree. The style, it comes down, it tapers down. A lot of the displays are tapered like a Christmas tree around that time. And lots of stuff there.
Usually,
so
around Christmas, you would see some of them. They have sometimes the displays right behind it, behind the cash, like where you're going to exit. Sometimes,
yes,
you see, a pyramid of sorts of alcohol.
There is a psychology to sales. I understand that the Paria report has been delivered to Her Excellency the President. So we will see what happens next with that. Later on this morning, we have Prakash Ramba, the attorney at law, who represented some of the families involved. And he's saying that expect lawsuits to come.
Yeah, I would imagine. He's an attorney.
Well, he's hired to represent families. He's an advocate, so we'll talk to him later on this morning. And see how it goes. What else is it? It was the 1st of December, so the Christmas countdown is officially on now.
Yes.
Rena is saying it boils down to discipline. Yes and no, Rena. Addiction is a real thing, and sugar addiction is a real thing, and salt addiction is a real thing. And when they put certain things in foods, I know parents who started the children eating so healthy, and they went to one party and they eat KFC, and that's the end of that. Addiction, the human body is designed with dopamine and other neurotransmitters that manufacturers can capitalize off of the makeup of the human body and its tendency to want dopamine rushes. Okay? It's not as easy as just discipline. People and willpower. Cigarette smokers get to the point of not even having willpower at a point, because of the number of addictive chemicals that are put into cigarettes. Alcoholism is something because people just can't use willpower and discipline to stop it.
Yeah.
And foods are generally the same thing. The human body is made up that way. Not some can do it, but many can't. No longer a matter of free will at that stage. What else is happening? Yes, Christmas countdown is officially on. So, is the full promenade lit up now?
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just answered you. No.
Oh, okay. You're in town? You came
No,
into town?
So that theory that you all had that is too much work to do it in one night. Remember us countering that? Apparently it take a whole month to do.
Well, we don't know if other lights have been added. I haven't personally gone. I haven't been out in
I
the
drove
night.
down there on Wednesday evening at 7, and I only saw a portion in front of Central Bank lit.
That's the only portion that's lit.
Mm.
The rest of the promenade is.
So maybe Central Bank do that.
Yeah, maybe. There is
Right?
no.
So the city corporation that Oye killed so much might not be involved at all.
Possibly.
Nope. And there was a time too that they used to light up Woodford Square too, and I know that times they have lit up Woodford Square.
It used to be beautiful.
It's just, you know, what gets me mad about things like that is that those kinds of traditions are so easily swept to the side because people just don't care.
Remember the Ministry of Agriculture and that beautiful white hanging light thing that they used to have going on by, is it
the Botanical Gardens? The Botanical Gardens.
The left side, going into Wildflower Park. And that road going through there, when you're going up to Brian Lara and that area, and you turn left, like if you're going into Marval, that whole road used to be decorated with white hanging lights. It was enchanting.
I know they used to light up the Botanical Gardens.
They should do that too, but not even that. You didn't see that anymore.
Yeah.
Why do we have to even discuss this? You know, and it's simply because people just don't care. They have no sense of continuing a tradition of anything. I know growing up, they used to light up, they used to have lights all up across the main street, which is Queen into Pro Queen. They used to have those and Broadway. They used to have lights strung straight across the street above your head in Arima. They used to do stuff like that. I remember that they used to light it up, and the only place that's lit up in Arima, as far as I'm aware, I know there's a tree close to the market that they make and they light up. I don't know if that has been done yet. Is the same Santa Rosa Park when I went to that parang and choirs and stuff that I went to a night. Those trees are lit up, the trunks of those trees, but it's like people just don't really care. Those sorts of things are not important to the people that are elected to office. They just don't seem to care about the aesthetics of stuff. They just don't. That's my honest opinion. I don't care where they are. I just don't get the sense that they care about stuff like that.
You know, a bit of fake news started being circulated yesterday, and I'm glad the Education Ministry stepped in very quickly to debunk it, because there was a bit of fake news on a Newsday masthead, seemingly, which sought to give it some legitimacy, and it seemed like a Newsday link, which ended up being a fake link, saying that the government had asked all scholarship winners to come home. And when I got it, I said, this don't make sense. This is a press conference. This is something very serious. I don't believe this. This is actually doesn't make sense and is fake news.
Yeah.
10 minutes later, it turned out to be fake news. Thank God the Education Ministry acted quickly and put out the information that it was fake news. I mean, think about who would sit down
and craft that
and create that and go to able to create a link and put in a fake Newsday masthead to try and legitimize this story. Who would have something to gain from that?
Yeah.
Who would think that's a productive exercise to take time to do and have something to gain to potentially put parents into a tailspin? Who? I ask myself, who do you think would have something to gain by that?
I have no clue.
I could hazard guesses, but I won't.
Me too.
But when I saw it in our chat, and Richard had made a comment. Richard said, this has to be fake news. So I messaged the minister, and she immediately said that it was in fact fake news. You understand? And I placed that in our chat. You know, because it just read crazy. You know?
Yeah. And if you understand how things operate, you know that is not going to happen like that.
Yeah.
And if something that drastically happens, which is very, very unlikely, that would be the subject of a press conference.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I go back to the point. Okay, so you come from Trinidad and Tobago and you love this country, right? and you're a patriotic citizen, but you sit down and you design that and you do it and you put it out there on a fake Newsday link and masthead to give it legitimacy. What is your objective? What's the objective?
To create panic at Christmas
No,
time, especially?
the objective is to damage the credibility of the Ministry of Education.
That too.
That is the objective. That is the objective. Because when you create the panic, who is going to get the blame? You understand? Is nothing short of sinister, disgusting mischief.
Yeah.
So I guess you have a whole department now looking out for fake news and responding to it. Or maybe that's the part of the communications department remit now. But it's really, really disgusting.
But I said in our chat, expect a lot more coming up.
I didn't see it on social media. I only saw it because it came into our group. In terms of, because we in news, we would get, all of that kind of information, but I didn't actually see it in my stream. Coming up, at least I didn't come up in my stream. I don't know if it came up in either of yours.
But I didn't get it anywhere else.
Yeah, but it was, you will, like, why would you craft something like that?
It is to create mischief.
And
it is to destabilize the system.
And they should track you down.
And they should track you down.
They should track you down and expose you.
Yeah, the minister also did send that the page was created yesterday. It was done yesterday itself.
And Richard, they should track them down.
Yep.
Because the anxiety it would create for parents. Anyway, it's 13 before 7. Richard, your papers?
Oh, yes, I do. Yeah, I do.
All right. Well, let's get in the headlines of all three dailies. Then we'll get into our morning poll. Let us say,
all right, I'll start with
I have a lot of people that came in and wanted to say hello this morning. So let me just do that quickly. Brenda Isaac, Nemesis, Matthew, Tony, Trinidad Margot, Donna Leeling, good morning. Arno, good morning. CPT Singh, Cheryl Seeley, Terrence Brown, Rena Boodoo Jennings, CJ New York, good morning to you all. All right, headlines.
All right, I can start with the Newsday, as we touched on a false Newsday. But this is the real Newsday, Trinidad and Tobago, and the main headline, don't be afraid to serve, so says the president. Public service invasive, but don't be afraid to serve. That's the headline on the front page of the Trinidad and Tobago Newsday today. Recreation ground to be named after Terry Rondon. That's also a subheadline on the front page. And no horsing around is the picture. Members of the mounted branch on patrol on Barbados Road, Port of Spain on Thursday. That's the main picture. And on the back page of the Newsday, Elliott's late goal gives Prez 1-0 edge over Arima North. Lions roar into Intercol finals. And Dowrich walks away from Windies. That's on the back page of the Newsday. Moving straight along to the Trinidad and Tobago Daily Express. And just in case you were in doubt, today is December 1st, and it's also World AIDS Day. Nursing manager laments 2-year trauma for ECG test in public health care. Painful wait is actually the headline. So a nursing manager laments 2-year trauma for ECG test in public health care. You would think that me being in the system that I would have been able to get through. That's the headline that the Express went with. And the nursing manager's picture, her name is Avalon Drayton Bailey, tells her horror story of having to wait 2 years for an ECG test in the public healthcare system during a Joint Select Committee town hall meeting on social services and public administration on Wednesday in the parliamentary complex Cabildo building, St. Vincent Street, Port of Spain. President receives Paria COE report over to PM. And on the back page of the Daily Express, World Cup glitch. Dominica pulls out of hosting matches, but Grave not worried. Dowbridge withdraws from ODI squad, quits international cricket. On to the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian, front page. Full disclosure.
It's not embarrassing for the West Indies that you'd pick somebody and then they drop out, they retire from cricket. It's not embarrassing for cricket West Indies. My goodness.
And they pick somebody who seemed qualified who now say he had to tell you.
Full disclosure. OWTU insists Paria findings must not be sanitized. LMCS boss raises doubts about process. Inquiry report in hands of president. All of that is on the front page. Two families homeless after fire, and sexual attacks against girls under 15 is up by 62%. All of that is on the front page. Ashanti's kidnapping murder still haunts mom after 3 years. And on the back page, Dowbridge retires 3 days before England's tour starts. That's it for the 3 dailies.
So you have to find a wicketkeeper now. When you had the best wicketkeeper right here in Trinidad and Tobago, Joshua De Silva. Huh? Or even Shy Hope you could have put in there as a wicketkeeper batsman. West Indies is in a mess, yes? Anyway.
All right. Well, let's get the results of our morning poll from yesterday, where we asked you, should the final report from the Commission of Inquiry into the Paria diving tragedy be made public? All right. That was our poll yesterday. Results in 2 minutes.
You asked us for it. We listen. Are you an employer who needs a certificate of compliance from the NIBTT? Starting Friday, 1st December 2023, an employer who qualifies for a certificate of compliance will be issued a certificate valid for 3 months from the date it is issued. To make your request, email a completed NI200 form to compliancecertificate@nibtt.net. NIBTT, making it easier for you to do business. We are more than just a pension provider.
We're here, and we're looking out for you. This is the season of giving, and you can give the holiday happiness to your loved ones. Send and receive more with the MoneyGram. Share the joy with your loved ones and make Christmas extra special this year. With every MoneyGram transfer, this Christmas you have the chance to win a cash voucher. Share the joy of the season with your loved ones. Visit any MoneyGram agent location or Massey stores nationwide for details. And check our Facebook and Instagram page. This promotion has been approved by the NLCB.
Persons with disabilities should have the same rights and access to services and opportunities as every other citizen in Trinidad and Tobago. But they do not, and it's time for change.
The Law Association of Trinidad Tobago's Subcommittee on Human Rights Working Group on Disability Rights is hosting a series of consultations titled Law and Disability Rights.
Saturday, 25th November, Naparima Girls Auditorium, San Fernando.
And Saturday, 2nd December, Hillview College Auditorium, El Dorado Road, Tunapuna, 2 to 5 p.m.
Come share your important views on what you think laws that protect the rights of persons with disabilities in Trinidad and Tobago should look like, and what must be included in that law to protect your rights.
The Law and Disability Rights Public Consultations, Saturday, 25th November, Naparima Girls Auditorium, San Fernando, and Saturday, 2nd December, Hillview College Auditorium, El Dorado Road, Tunapuna, 2 to 5 p.m.
Come share your perspective and contribute to crafting comprehensive laws to protect the rights of persons with disabilities in Trinidad and Tobago.
All right, our poll yesterday, should the final report from the Commission of Inquiry into the Paria diving tragedy be made public? All our votes online, 100%. Everyone said yes. All right, so let's get into this morning's poll.
Which one are you going with, Paul? The age limit or the fake news?
And we go to the age limit.
There we go. It's up already. Go ahead and read it, Steve.
Do you agree that the legal age to smoke marijuana and gambling in Trinidad and Tobago be raised from 18 to 25? That is our morning poll. It's going to stay up for the entire weekend. You can call us at 222-8255. North Americans, toll free, 866-525-1099. On WhatsApp at 318-1021. All right. Once again, our morning poll. Do you agree that the legal age to smoke marijuana and gambling in Trinidad and Tobago be raised from 18 to 25. And gamble, yeah. Marijuana and gamble. Yes or no? Got some calls coming through, so let's jump straight into it. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning.
No, it's a waste of time. More people get into trouble. It's a waste of time. Forget that. No.
No. All right. Thank you so much.
Was that the pilot? I have something I want to raise with that pilot, yeah?
Oh, Captain Ron, you have to call back. All right.
So you see our poll, do you agree that the legal age to smoke marijuana and gamble in TNT be raised from 18 to 25? It's a suggestion from Kamala Pisabisesa, I believe. And some people are now weighing in on it.
Yeah.
What's your thought? That's our poll this morning. 222-TALK, 222-8255. North Americans, 866-525-1099. Send your votes via the comment section on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. Text us at WhatsApp 383-1021.
All right.
We have some votes there already.
Beauty Culture, good morning. Trinity in Boston, Ms. Maloney. Boy Bidesi says yes. CJ New York says yes. Ms. Maloney, yes. Gregory Bauer, good morning. No to the poll. Wayne Joseph in Ontario, Canada says yes. Josie Richardson says yes. Arno says yes. All right. Let me check my. Good morning, Lorna. Good morning, Indy and Kali. That's yes. DL, yes, it should be raised. All right. In fact, DL is saying it should be raised to 21, not 25. The DL agrees. Miss Ingrid, Tucson, Arizona, yes. What says you, caller? Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning, Captain Ron. Wendell, your question for Captain Ron, quickly.
Yeah, you know what I wanted to quickly find out from Captain Ron? What is the purpose, or what is the reason why when a plane is landing or taking off, they ask you to either put your devices in airplane mode or switch them off entirely? What does it do to the plane that makes it so urgent to get that done?
Well, first of all, takeoff and landing are the most critical parts of the flight. So sometimes some of the stuff that you're doing, you're using may interfere with the navigation system for the approach to land accurately, get a perfect navigation to the runway. So just to prevent that and all sort of disturbances on the navigation equipment, they prefer,
put it in airplane mode.
Because I'll get into it a little more. I'll get into it a little more next time because I'm curious about certain things.
Yeah. After 8, we'll talk about it. You want to stick around a little bit after 8 when Captain Ron can call after 8 o'clock.
I will try because I'm in where am I? Idaho, and I'm going down to Mexico, so we might have to early start this morning.
Yeah.
So if not, I'll call Monday.
All right.
Monday, please God. I'll do it Monday. We'll do it Monday, please God.
All right. Captain Ron said, "Where am I?" Oh, I'm here. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen. Sandy Grandy, yes.
All right, Grandy, thank you. Good morning.
Morning, Steve Khan. I don't know how your record is, but for marijuana, I will go with 25, and for gambling, I will go with 21. Thank you.
Well, I had to put yours
all right. So I kind of agree that it should be raised.
Yeah.
Let's try that.
I'll put him as a yes. Prabha says yes. Marcia Rock says yes. Reno Halasi says yes. And Ingrid Adams didn't vote.
Yeah, she did early on, Miss Ingrid.
Oh, she did? Okay.
Yeah.
Strange they left alcohol out of it, though.
Yeah. We had all that. We discussed all that earlier on.
Yeah.
Dan Raj says yes. Trinity in Boston also says yes.
Why are you trading words, though?
Steve, you did not give out the temps. Oh, I didn't.
Me?
No, I didn't.
Why are you trading words?
Is it that you say in your car you had to raise the age limit to drink vodka, Grey Goose something, and scotch? Is that what you said?
Throwing words. That's called throwing words.
Well,
I
you know, you can
innocently
depend on me to throw it. You know, because you're right. It's strange that they didn't include alcohol in that.
All
You're
right.
mad?
Ron says yes. Dabity says yes. Beefy Smith out in Goodwood, Tobago says yes. Sunny San Fernando says no to the poll. He says at 17 you gotta drive a car and weapon. Okay. Junior says yes. Thank you, Junior.
My thinking on that is that whatever the age of majority is, the age of majority is. So if you are an adult at 18, you are an adult. If you want to change the age of an adult, because if you're thinking that people at 18 are not equipped to smoke marijuana or gambling, then you're saying at 18 you shouldn't be considered an adult. Then change the age of adulthood to 21, if that's your concern. But if you're saying it's 18, then you're an adult, you're supposed to be able to do anything.
Good morning to you, Paria Hayatali. Ray out in West Palm Beach, Florida says yes to the poll. I've got Jaron Joseph Long Islander saying no. Thank you, Jaron.
Morning, Jaron.
Yeah, I got somebody else. Well, no, yeah. Long Islander says no, and Jaron says no. Right. Okay, gentlemen, we got to run into our 7 o'clock major news. Evie is in. News starts right now.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
These are your news headlines. OWTU head calls for the Commission of Inquiry report into the Paria tragedy to be made public. On the observance of World AIDS Day, the government pledges support for vulnerable communities with quality HIV services. TGPS data shows increase in the number of females affected by sexual violence between the years 2020 and 2021. And International Court of Justice to hand down ruling in Guyana-Venezuela border dispute today. Details in a moment. This is News 2, 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. I'm Avril Sintel-Bab. Good morning. Oilfield Workers Trade Union President General Ansel Roger says the Commission of Inquiry report into the Paria tragedy that claimed the lives of 4 divers must be made public and not sanitized. He made the call for full disclosure hours after Commission of Inquiry Chairman Jerome Lynch submitted the report to President Christine Kangaloo. While addressing former Petrotrin workers and union members at the Pointe-a-Pierre roundabout to mark the 5th anniversary of Petrotrin's closure, Roger said that they needed to join him in calling for that report to be made public. At a virtual press conference on Wednesday, Lynch said the 380-page report was completed, but he did not divulge any details about the findings, except to say that the 2022 tragedy was no act of God. Lynch added that everyone should ensure that the tragedy never recurs. The report was delivered 21 months after LMCS divers Faisal Kurban, Kazim Ali Jr., Yusuf Henry and Richie Nagasar died inside a Paria Fuel Trading Company pipeline at berth number 6 in the Pointe-a-Pierre harbor. Fellow diver Christopher Boudram, who was also sucked into the pipeline, survived. On today's observance of World AIDS Day, the government says it will continue to support those vulnerable communities with increased availability and quality of HIV services, both at the biomedical and psychosocial levels. It says reform of laws, policies, and practices to tackle stigma and discrimination will also provide means to protect persons living with and or affected by HIV and AIDS in all communities. The Ministry of Labor's Legal Services Unit, in collaboration with the HIV Workplace Advocacy Unit, conducted the first national consultation on legislation to govern HIV and AIDS in the workplace, which included tripartite stakeholders. The second consultation will be held in Tobago in 2024. The Minister of Labour says the government at this time commemorates those who have passed due to age-related complications and celebrates those who are living with HIV. Data collected by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service indicates a marked increase in the number of females affected by sexual violence between the years 2020 and 2021. These increases ranged from as low as 9% in the 15 to 19 age group to as high as 106% in the 30 to 34 age bracket. Minister of Social Development and Family Services Donna Cox made the disclosure during a presentation at the Women's Roundtable Action Platform Trinidad and Tobago's Elimination of Violence 2023 project this week. It was held in commemoration of this year's global observance of the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. There was a 62% increase in the number of female victims of sexual violence who were under the age of 15. Moreover, up until September 2023, females accounted for 75% of the reports of domestic violence made to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, with the remaining 25% made by men. Consumers have been told that they can do their part in bringing down the food import bill, according to Minister in the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, Avinash Singh. Minister Singh made the remark while speaking at a town hall meeting hosted by the Joint Select Committee on Social Services and Public Administration to discuss the topic Public Healthcare Services Anew. The meeting focused on combating non-communicable diseases like diabetes and cardiological diseases and cancer, the effectiveness of the CDAP, the standard of service received at outpatient clinics, and the overall public health care system. Minister Singh said the food import bill is about $1 billion, but said consumers can make the difference when it comes to what they buy and contribute to reducing the increasing amount spent on food import into the country.
Year on year, our food import bill raised by $1 billion. I want to just say, you impact the food import bill. When you go to the grocery, check your own fridge when you go home, check, and you will see the food import bill staring you in your eye. And you talk about cereal, we have local manufacturers of cereal. Why choose the foreign when you could have the local? Now, I know for various reasons people may choose. Simply to say, you choose the healthy option, and it starts at home.
Pan Trinbago says 20 steel bands have successfully qualified for the finals of Panorama 2024 Single Pan Champion at 6 p.m. on Sunday, December 3rd, 2023 at Grand Queen's Park Savannah in Port of Spain. It says it remains steadfast in its commitment to advancing the steel pan instrument's evolution and ensuring the welfare of steel band members on a global scale. In terms of the order of appearance, Ice Water Pan Ensemble will be leading off the proceedings. They will be followed by the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service Steel Orchestra. The Brimblers will perform in position 3. Chord Masters, which topped the semifinals round and is scheduled to perform before the judges at number 4, and Sanborn Eastside Symphony is carded to perform at number 5. You are listening to news on Power 102 Digital to 7 o'clock. Today, the International Court of Justice will deliver on its order on Guyana's request for the indication of provisional measures aimed at preventing Venezuela from holding a referendum over the ownership of the mineral and forest-rich county of Essequibo. The ICJ said a public sitting will take place on Friday afternoon at 3 p.m., during which Judge Joan E. Donoghue, president of the court, will read the court's order. The ICJ had last week reserved its judgment to Guyana's claim it has evidence that Venezuela intends to gain ownership of the mineral and forest-rich county through a referendum on December 3rd. Both Guyana and Venezuela made presentations to the ICJ during 2 days of hearing into the case relating to the 1899 arbitral award after Guyana, in its request, had said that the Venezuela government, through its National Electoral Council, had published a list of 5 questions that it intends to put before the people of Venezuela in a consultative referendum next month. During the ICJ sitting, Venezuela vowed to go ahead with this referendum as it seeks to gain ownership of the Essequibo in Guyana. Guyana's opposition leader, Aubrey Norton, claims the government needs to fight the border dispute issue with Venezuela in a more united way. Speaking with reporters this week, Mr. Norton suggested a task force should have been formed to deal with the matter.
Even though we have shown them the need for unity, even though we have supported them in the parliament, they turned their backs and decided they will do us the like over like as well. Because we are not going to participate in your unilateral activities.
He claims his side is being left out and government needs to pursue this development in a collaborative approach.
If you want unity in this country, and it is unity that has been a perennial problem of this country, you require the opposition to even go with you. But they don't call us, no, like we don't matter. And I am urging the leaders of the DDB to put some sense in their heads and don't believe that we are not seeing what is happening.
Straight into weather news for the period today till midnight. Trinidad and Tobago, sunny and hazy day will be interrupted at times by partly cloudy periods with the odd shower by late afternoon. Nighttime will be partly cloudy with a few showers. Look out for a forecast maximum temperature of 32 degrees Celsius, both at Piarco International Airport and Crown Point in Tobago. Recapping your headlines to 7 o'clock, OWTU head calls for the Commission of Inquiry report into the Paria tragedy to be made public. On the observance of World AIDS Day, the government pledges its support for vulnerable communities with quality HIV services. TTPS data shows increase in the number of females affected by sexual violence between the years 2020 and 2021. And the International Court of Justice to hand down ruling in Guyana-Venezuela border dispute today. I'm Afril Sindel Bab. That was news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. Look out for more news in detail at 12 noon today and an update at 8 o'clock this morning. For more details, log on to power102fm.com.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All right. Thank you so much, Avril, for our major news. You can join her again come 8 o'clock for our news brief. All right. All right. 24 degrees at Piarco International Airport, 27 at Crown Point. Quickly, let's get a quick traffic update out of Digger Martin, out of Maraval, going up Lady Young Road from Coconut Drive towards the Lookout. You've got some traffic. Heading east, getting on Valencia Stretch, passing through Santa Rosa, Piarco towards Huey. And then by the interchange, you'll pick up your traffic heading in Port of Spain. Of course, going to Kelly Village and to the back of the airport, pretty much, it's a bit sticky. You've got one accident this morning, and it's by Caterserve, right by the police station there in Piarco. That is where that accident is. This is going to create a little pileup. Heading south, make our way up north quickly, see what's going on there. San Fernando. Whoa. Nothing really to tell you about it. It's extremely light. Passing through Claxton Bay to Coover. You've got it. Rivulet Road is also pretty light. Chase Village towards Sugar Guanas. Got a little volume. The main road there in Sugar Guanas is volume as well. And of course, from Monroe Road, you're going to pick up your traffic in Uriah Butler Highway heading towards the interchange. County Roundabout to Curup also. You've got some traffic there. All right. Okay, gentlemen, let's get into our results of our morning poll. Let me see if I have any more results. I have Kenny in Harlem saying yes to the poll. Beauty Culture also said yes. And that's it.
All right. So our question this morning is, do you agree that the legal age to smoke marijuana and gamble in Trinidad and Tobago be raised from 18 to 25? We had 22 people saying yes, 22 of our voters saying yes, and 5 said no. 22 said yes, 5 said no. This poll, of course, will stay up for the entire weekend. And of course, this was a proposal a suggestion made by the leader of the opposition, Kamala Persad-Bissessar, and so that was our poll this morning, and we'll continue over the weekend, right?
Yeah, I got 2 extra in the yeses than you did.
You did?
Well, it went up to 24 for me when Steve added those last 2
When
votes.
these 2, all right. Well, I'll go with that. I'll go with that because it doesn't change the nose any bit.
No,
or the actual result.
It doesn't change the result.
Yeah. So I could go with that. I trust your mathematics. I know you put those little strokes, like those little worms, and then you count them.
No, I actually number.
Okay, because I've always done the numbering thing. All the way up.
Yeah, I do number 1, 2.
So you change it then.
Yeah,
you change your style.
Yeah.
That's very pleasing to hear.
Now the Cascade coffee there. But
okay, you and coffee. I don't know, you know. When Richard used to be in his studio, you always know when Richard works, there's a trail of coffee from upstairs to downstairs.
Yep. I've walked behind him on many occasions. I saw it spilling. Thank God I wasn't in front, because if I was in front, it was coming on my back.
Mischief. But getting back to that poll, I am a firm believer. Whatever is the age of majority, whatever is that age, if you're an adult, you're an adult. So that you're qualifying adulthood, I have problems with that.
Yeah.
I don't like it's either you're an adult or you're not. So if you want to say, if you want to change the age of being an adult to 21, then that's the conversation. But don't tell me you're leaving the age at 18 and then you qualify, well, you're not really an adult when it comes to this and that, but you're an adult for this. What the hell is that? No, that makes no sense to me. That's not logical to me. And the Americans have that kind of system because they have 18, you're an adult, but 21 is when you can drink.
Right.
And I know many Americans complain about that because if I'm 18, I can join the Marines or I could join wherever, go and fight for the country, die, but I can't drink until 21. I find that disassociation with whatever that age of adulthood is in any society, when you start to qualify it, I have problems. So make up your mind. If you're saying 18 is not of an age where people can make a decision to gamble or to smoke marijuana, then revise your age. Say you are now considered an adult at 21. But it can't be a tiered system. That makes no sense to me. So,
but yes, certainly one of the other addictive issues is alcohol, and that has not been addressed. So you're saying at 18 they can drink and do what they want, but at 18 they can't gamble.
No.
Or at 18 they can't smoke.
No. If you want to have a conversation about changing that age of adulthood, then fine. We can talk about that. Should adults now be 21? Let's talk about that. But don't give me no tiered system. Tiered system makes no sense to me. That is just meandering, and playing with what you, and usually the people who are advocating this are usually older people. And you know, as you get older, you get more conservative. And so you have these things. So to be logical about it.
But this didn't come from any NGO. This also came from politicians, and politicians who sat in a parliament and tried to defend children being married because of on religious grounds.
Yeah.
So come on, you know what I mean? Children were being raped and married off. You understand? At one point in time in this place.
Yeah.
And you supported that?
Yeah. They don't have a problem.
Give me a break, yeah?
So you could so at that point, yes, you could have gotten married under the age of 18. But you can't vote. I mean, you couldn't vote.
Yeah.
Because you weren't an adult. You couldn't drink because you weren't an adult. And so gambling and smoking marijuana is, smoking marijuana is really a new thing in terms of what legal changes would have taken place.
Right.
But yeah. So I am an advocate about if you want to change the age of adulthood, then have that conversation. But don't give me a qualifying age of adulthood that from this age you could do this, from that age you could do that. No, I find that's nonsense.
All right. So we're waiting on our guest. I don't know where Paul is. He's also waiting to let him into the program.
That's just my opinion, and I'm speaking for the younger people.
Yeah. Of course, our guest this morning is Attorney at Law Prakash Ramada, who was quite feisty during the Commission of Inquiry into the Paria tragedy.
He must be going back into politics. I never know, you know.
Yeah. I want to know, just now, make it back to Arima.
Yeah.
And so the Arima Borough Council, just because all the change don't mean that eyes get quiet. I just want to make sure that we all know this. So, Bali Mirage, I would love to know what is the plan for the Star on the Hill. Last year, I found that Star on the Hill because they were missing so many lights. It was no longer a star. It was an interesting shape that you could have taught children. What shape is that in school? Did you see the shape on the hill? What shape would you call that? Because there is no name for the shape that was lit up. Because it was just an abstract shape. So I would like to know what is the plan for that, and of course for the rest of Arima, so we can find that out.
But Mr. Ramadan looking like a really young fella.
Yeah. So let's say good morning, good night to the Law Prakash Ramada. Good morning. It's been a while.
Way too long. It is such a pleasure to be with you all again.
All right.
Morning, Mr. Ramadan.
Thank you.
All right. So you see,
morning.
Where's Wendell? Wendell Stevens, Richard Agabalsik, and Paul Richards is somewhere.
Well, I'm sure Paul is in a safe and good place and he'll join us.
Yeah, it's around this time that he goes into a special room and locks the door.
I understand. I could understand having regard to the environment we now live in.
Yeah, after he has his cup of coffee.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much and welcome. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah. So we're speaking the issue of the Commission of Inquiry, and of course the report into the incident that was released. Well, it wasn't released. It was sent to the president, and then the president, I assume, is going to send it on to the prime minister and for the musings of cabinet. Let me put it politely, and then some decision will be made. You're an advocate, I assume, of this report being released completely to members of the public.
Absolutely. And of course, we will appreciate that the government will have need to reflect deeply and release it. And we are asking for an expeditious release. But it must be given the time necessary, for decency to attend to whatever they deal with. But as a must, that report has to be made public.
Yeah.
What kind of timing are you thinking about that the government should have before they release it public?
Yeah, I would imagine. Of course, we have Christmas approaching. And having been a member of government in the past, I appreciate the labyrinth that things have to go through. But I would imagine by mid-January, we should have that properly put before the parliament and the public space. Now, that is highly optimistic, but it is my expectation, as we appreciate there's a reason. We have prepared as legal advisors and for some of the families who are affected, that we are prepared to go to court. It's a road I would rather not proceed on because of litigation being so difficult in terms of expense to the taxpayers. We are doing this free of charge, of course. And you may have a situation, I had a reason to reflect on a matter Mr. Larry Lala did with WASA, where a home was destroyed by the actions of WASA. The High Court judge ruled in relation to Mr. Lala's client, found WASA liable. WASA appealed to the Court of Appeal. They were rejected and thrown out of court. They went to the Privy Council, and with some level of scorn, the Privy Council dismissed WASA's appeal. And I can't imagine the cost to WASA and the taxpayers for that. But it took several years. So that if we could avoid litigation in a case that is clear, then I expect that the state will do the right thing. If not Paria, the line minister can instruct them, or the government on its own could take decisions to make an ex gratia payment as the chairman rightly pointed out, without accepting liability, and then we could do the battles in the court for as long as we take. But this is a case where the tragedy that occurred, and he's so correct, it was no act of God, it was no accident in terms of the death of the men, because they survived the accident. What was atrocious and so heartbreaking and unforgivable in my mind is that those who took responsibility and power on that day, which with all due respect, they did not have, prevented the rescue for these men. We had more than ample opportunity to save them. They knew full well that it was a very short timeline, or what you consider a lifeline. But they took a luxurious route, trying to eliminate, in their mind now, probably in hindsight, any danger, which is almost impossible to do. There would have been inherent dangers in any event. But they wanted it to mitigate down to zero, an impossibility. And in those precious moments, these men perished in the most awful way.
Yeah.
I have met persons who have come up who did not know these families, did not know these men, and indicated they have become claustrophobic just thinking about it. Can you imagine the pain and suffering of those who love these men and knew them? And we cannot bring them back, but the very least we could do, the decent thing, because there are families there who are wondering where their next meal will come from. In relation to Kurban, I have permission from the family to say it, although they were resistant in the beginning, but the truth may be told. Mr. Kurban's only daughter is the apple of his eye. They scraped up and sent her off to university in Canada. Every single term, they have to scrape and scramble and borrow so that she would not be recalled. I mean, they shouldn't have to do that. Children of the families, right? I remember last year, a barbecue, I had to see it advertised, a barbecue to raise money to look after the children. And on the other hand now, the obscenity and absurdity. We see the cost, and the chairman is quite right. This commission is not as expensive as some of the past. But we see the legal fees paid, $21 million, and not a single cent for the families. How could we in Trinidad and Tobago, a country that we will grow up in with love and embrace and caring and charity, in a situation like this, say that we're not going to look after the families, the children of these families?
But is it that the state has indicated formally that they're not going to do that, or are they waiting to see the outcome of the report?
Why wait?
Make that decision.
Why wait? Let me just say yes. The answer is they have said, and let's distinguish the state, which is the government and Trinidad and Tobago, and the wider society. From Paria, under cross-examination by me, of the chairman, of the general manager, sorry, he said that they were reaching out to the family to help. But they were advised by the lawyers that they are paying to stop doing that. And therefore, he felt constrained. I am just now moving forward from what I assumed he meant, from doing anything to help because of legal advice. And I understand why, to the extent that they didn't want to accept legal liability. But to me, and I am not perfect, but simple law that most law students know, that when something occurs on your premises, you are liable, especially where there are two parts of this. Where the accident occurred, that's one, but the failure to endeavor any meaningful rescue is what matters most. And the law is quite clear. So whether it's LMCS, Paria, jointly or severally liable, they are liable. And I put them in one group.
But Mr. Ramadan, what's the precedent for that? In that wouldn't, I mean, I don't know, but has that ever taken place before under any circumstances where that type of compensation is offered, even whilst an inquiry is taking place?
Absolutely. In fact, we do many cases, and a lot of cases, you just send your pre-action protocol, and decent people, decent companies, decent businesses say, look, no problem, let's settle this. That happens on a daily basis, right? From personal professional experience, that happens on a daily basis in this country and throughout the world. So we do not need necessarily a legal determination, but if we have to get one, we will get one. And I assure you that what happened in the Commission of Inquiry would possibly pale in comparison to what would happen in a court of law. because
so that's my next question. Would that have prevented, would a settlement then, would some sort of ex gratia payment then, assistance to the families then, prevent any pending legal action after the fact?
Well, let me just say it is up to the clients in any case. I'm not being specific to this one, to decide, okay, I am satisfied with this, and therefore we as lawyers only act on instructions. And if they say, look, we're satisfied, we do not wish to endure the pain and suffering of a trial, then that's the end of the matter. If they say, however, that is what the state is doing or suggesting, or whatever, a government or a government entity or a company or person, we are not satisfied that we want to litigate, then of course we will litigate. But in these circumstances, where it is obvious to all fair-minded, decent, right-thinking citizens, that these families have to be looked after. And I have taken the responsibility together with a team of lawyers, and I want to make it quite clear, and I want to thank each and every one of my colleagues who volunteered. We are doing this for zero. We have committed not a cent we shall take for ourselves. And to put things in context, when the matter arose and the commission had been put into place, we wrote saying, well, okay, Paria is paying for lawyers, top of the line, highest price. Could we be privileged so that we could get, because I mean, we have costs. My colleagues have to live. I'm fortunate enough to be able to do a lot of the pro bono cases. We were told go to legal aid. So you say, what? No, we will not be deterred. This is not about money for us. God has been really good to some of us. And we said, no, we will represent these people to the end no matter what. And that's what we're doing. And then to see now the level of fees, I'm not a jealous person, but I mean, let's be real. The families are seeing these things and they know what we have to do, the amount of work. So they're not being looked after. How is that possible in a Trinidad and Tobago that we grew up in? We can't allow this to be the culture that dominates, an uncaring, brutal one.
But again, my question, even with what you just revealed, because I don't know that was ever said before.
No, I'm saying now, so to put things in context. And that is why it is more grievous to show the level of imbalance. Had I not had the assistance of my colleagues, so many of them, right? And these people were left unattended legally, what would have happened?
But what then is the precedent for that happening? That you all would be doing it for free in terms of the families, but getting compensated by the state?
That's a normal thing, right? To be fair. All right, but let's not dilute the conversation. I'm not in this for compensation.
No, but it's only as you raised it, because I don't know it was ever raised before.
Well, the point being is that there must be some equity and balance in terms of the forces that come to do battle. If it is battle they want, there must be and that is why we have a legal aid system in the country, yes. But the not for a case like this. So I'm happy you're raising the issue of precedent. Maybe this is that case that need to do. I am unaware of a precedent where the state will pay lawyers, right? I am saying now, however, having regard to all of that, then make an ex gratia payment and settle the people. Okay? So moving forward, there must be equality of arms whenever you do battle. And I'm making a point. And I learned from the great Ashford Sinanan, Frank Solomon, and of course, my Ramesh Lawrence Maraj. I did so much work with him over the years. And the amount of cases he did pro bono for those who could not afford to fight the state. And I'm passing that on to younger lawyers now, because it is not about money. This is a profession to protect the rights of people. But it shouldn't be left to that.
But that sort of negotiation, Mr. Ramadan, would normally take place between attorneys. Was it initiated at all?
No, we wrote formally to the commission to see if that we could be assisted in that way. And we were sent off to legal aid. So that is really a non-issue, but it's an important one moving forward. But when in relation to this particular circumstance, right? And I am always reminded,
I wasn't referring again to the
legal.
I was referring to the compensation issue for the family. Was that raised at all?
Absolutely, because we had written. I'm sorry if I misinterpreted what you had said. In terms of the compensation for the family, we had done a pre-action protocol a long while ago to Paria, and their response is that we are not liable, basically CA in court. So one of the reasons we held back, because we were prepared to file our action a long while ago, but we said, you know what, it might be infinitely better for the commission to do its work, for the country to hear the evidence, and then await the recommendations, which will, I am sure, carry great gravity in those who have the authority and responsibility to fix our wrong. And the chairman, I congratulate him. I congratulate the legal team, and his statement that he made gave us great comfort and confidence. And he has said the decent thing to do in the circumstances is to make an ex gratia payment without admitting liability. We have been saying that from day one. So that those now, it is in the hand of the highest office of this nation, the president. Her Excellency, I know for a long time, is a very decent woman. And I expect that the government of the day that put together the commission, having heard now the statements of the chairman, and certainly now having in the embrace the recommendations, I expect and hope, I'm an optimist, that they will do the right thing.
Good morning, Mr. Amada.
But the state is probably not going to want to make an ex gratia payment without some sort of commitment, just looking at it through the lens of a legal practitioner,
yes,
without getting some sort of signature from the representatives of the clients that this is in settlement and final settlement of the issue. That's generally how it would work.
Correct.
And so,
we don't have a problem with that at all, actually. And
once the clients are agreeable,
exactly.
which I think is what you said, once the clients are agreeable.
Yes, absolutely the point. So that, you know, because it is to bring litigation to close before we even begin that torturous road. The timelines for our first hearing, though, I could tell you, is extremely long. We do not have the luxury, and I speak we because these people are now my own family in a way, for that. And I could tell you of efforts made to help and assist these families along the path. But it's extremely burdensome when, in fact, we know at the end of the day, they would be all entitled. And this is not just about money. The chairman made an important point. Nobody has accepted in the commission that they are liable or responsible. That's an incredibly important part for the healing of the children of these families and of the families themselves. Right? You have been saying that the actions were excellent when we all heard the opportunities that were available, the real life, not just possibly likelihood of saving each and every one of these men, and they were allowed to perish while they did it and considered all sorts of artificial reasons to prevent the rescue. Michael,
how much of the posturing that you saw, or that we saw, because we all looked at it on television live,
yes,
do you think were legal positions as opposed to moral and ethical positions, given what we all know now has transpired? Because at the end of the day, Paria is a state entity, and when lives are lost in that manner, one, there are moral and ethical issues that arise because of the way, the horrific way this unfolded, and also the issue of culpability or responsibility, legal and otherwise, procedurally, legally and otherwise, come into play, because the principals in those companies, in many cases, are sworn to have a fiduciary responsibility to protect the interests of the company.
Quite. What a piercingly poignant question you posed. And we were so fortunate in cross-examination, Mr. Mushtaq, to me, he says, because I asked him, what have you all done to assist the family? He said, well, they were reaching out to them, but they got legal advice to not pursue that. So whatever the moral and ethical considerations, the legal advice superseded that. And therefore, Paria may very well in their bosom thought, look, let's do the right and decent thing. But the legal advice is only that. At the end of the day, the client has the ultimate responsibility to accept or reject it, or to modify it. And that is open to them till this very moment. So having responded to our pre-action protocol denying any liability, It is now open to them, and especially where the gravity of the chairman's words have fallen, where the gravity of the heartbreak of the population has been seen. It is at any day now an open opportunity, and more now than ever. I don't mean to get, pedantic in any way, but this is meaningful to me because in the era of the birth of our Christ, redemption, rebirth, now in the hand of Her Excellency the President, this is the opportune moment to do the right and decent thing, to echo the words of the chairman of the commission.
But let's have the law and spirit of the law are two different things. How much of the OSH Act is going to be a part of this matter if it goes forward? Because this country has occupational health and safety legislation, which is to me one of the very material pieces of law that would come into play, because the employer, by my generalized understanding of the law, has a responsibility to provide a safe working environment, and there are processes and procedures that must underpin that.
Yeah, well, before I get to that point, you are the one who raised ethical and moral considerations, and that is why I spoke of the period that we are in. Because this is, at the end of the day, a human issue. The law is only a tool, one instrument to achieve what we will put in inverted commas, justice. There's no justice in this case. There's mitigation in this case. OSHA, of course, requires under law a safe working environment. Clearly, the fact that 4 men perished, fortunately one survived and was able to give meaningful, powerful evidence of life after the accident. And that is why the chairman made the point. There was no accident in that way, or act of God, because we must dissect into 2 separate but important events. One, the incident where they went into the pipe. What we do now have is the proof of life for a substantial period of time after that. So we now move into the second phase, which is the one that is most painful, the failure to execute a rescue. When they knew full well there was a timeline of minutes, if at most hours. There were resources available on site. In fact, Michael Kurban, and that is why it pained me when I first saw, and I wanted to say that I saw Mr. Philip Alexander's press conference. And then I said, oh my God, how is this possible? This man's son is there ready to go in, and they prevented him. And the evidence came out, yes, that is the truth. He went in. So it was doable. But persons who had power, responsibility, and authority wanted to mitigate to zero dangers. This is what they're saying now for an escape or rescue. So OSHA, of course, that report would be critically important. And there were clear breaches in that. So that I have not, certainly like none of us have seen the actual letter and wording of the report, but I imagine that will be a very important component. Yes.
Are you suggesting, I'm going back to the issue of the legal advice given to Paria and the owners of the company not to engage in any sort of settlement? Are you suggesting that they may have gotten the legal advice wrong, that the legal advice that they got was wrong?
I do not wish to comment on that, because lawyers, of course, they have a responsibility and a duty. But when we introduce now the holistic approach to it, as I repeat, this is a very human issue. The law is only one component of it, and lawyers have a duty to their clients to advise what they see fit. But beyond that, the client has a higher responsibility to ensure that, and especially a state enterprise, to do that which is right and proper, because it is a state enterprise. This is no private entity, contrary to what some may want to say. A state enterprise by a board appointed by the government of the day to run and to make decisions, of course, to protect the fiduciary and economic viability of a company. So that, yes, you can get legal advice, but every single day, legal advice could be accepted or rejected, and tell the lawyers, no, this is what we want to do, work through, there's an opportunity elsewhere to sort this matter out. And there's where we are. And that is why I'm so happy Paul raised the issue of moral and ethical responsibility. This, to me, is not just a legal issue. The society has moved beyond that. This is a situation, this is an event of the conscience of this nation and how we move forward, the examples we set.
But even if we, let me just, because I want to add something that will add something to your context.
Yes.
While I my perspective is there's a balancing act between legal responsibility and moral and ethical responsibility, because you have human lives at stake here, or you had human lives at stake. The issue that you raised,
we have human lives at stake right now.
Yeah,
in a real sense,
right?
their livelihood, their
Agreed.
well-being,
But at
mental,
that point, the issue of what you said and what we heard in testimony about the authorities saying, well, it is too risky for other individuals to go into mount a rescue. And I had a conversation with an attorney friend of mine who does risk assessment in industrial situations in the US. And his perspective was that, in his understanding, part of laws like OSH Act are to prevent, mitigate, and preserve lives in a general sense.
Correct.
And while the life of persons going in, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm putting it out there, my understanding of what he told me, while the authority had a right to protect any further risk to life, they also had a responsibility to save any lives that may have been still viable.
And there's
a balancing act, he told me, that must be undertaken, because, and he drew the cases of rescues in caves where sending people in to save lives would put lives at risk, but the company, the mining company, also had a responsibility to preserve any potential life still viable in the cave. And we have to ask ourselves if that balancing act was done correctly.
And that is the crutch. That is the real issue at hand. And in this particular case, they knew that the men were alive, and that in the circumstances, their timeline for the expiration of life was very limited. But they were waiting for cameras to come that they knew full well that couldn't have arrived for several hours. And even if the cameras did go and do what they had to do, then they would have decided, no, we had a live person, Michael Kurban, who went in, and he needed literally a lifeline. That is a hose for oxygen to go in further. He had reached the end of his tether. He needed an extension, and he came out, and that was prevented. These men were alive at that time because they continued to hear knocking into the pipes. So that is a most important observation. But it's obvious to us, it's not just about what has happened, but what do you do to rescue? And there was no effort to rescue by those who took the responsibility, and we will challenge whether they had the authority to do these things. Because in the normal course of events, when there is an emergency, who do you call? Police and fire. And that is why moving forward, the commission is not just about looking at tombstone issues, but to determine how we move into the future. I made a recommendation, and I hope and expect that it would form part of the report, that we have a centralized agency that collates all of the assets that are available. That is human intelligence, expert evidence, equipment necessary to meet all of the challenges into an industrial future, so that when there's an emergency, there is that cohesive approach. They know exactly who to call, what equipment to bring in, and not leave it to what I will call novices, who basically are.
But I also have a serious concern about a company of that nature, and this is just my concern, without casting any judgment, but I guess the statement will have some implications, that says we don't have the expertise to mount that kind of rescue. That just doesn't sit well with me in that kind of high-risk environment generally. And I knew these circumstances were extremely novel, because no one expects men to get sucked into a pipeline of that nature. But I mean, if you would walk through the processes involved and the potential for any risk in that environment, I think you have to make sure that I don't know how you could not have expertise in a wide range in terms of rescue expertise that is available very relatively quickly if there's an accident of some kind.
And Paul, once again, nail on the head. It is by definition, in terms of a refinery, we talk about Delta P. Delta P is a vacuum kind of environment, basically pumping. The very fact that they had things in place, as they claim, to prevent accidents is to prevent men from dying in pipes. And therefore, it, to me and to you, to any right-thinking person, it must have been foreseeable. Distantly, yes, but foreseeable that these things will occur. And in fact, they had a plan for it. Okay, they had a plan. They didn't execute the plan. And that is
Mr.
where
Amada,
yes, sorry.
Whom do you think would hold the greater responsibility concerning this incident? The company, LMCS, or Paria, the overseeing employer?
All right. Now, I have to be very cautious because we may have litigation. But I will say that cumulatively, they may be jointly and severally liable, meaning they either one or the other or both. On basic law, right? Who is to blame? That will be ultimately determined probably in a court of law, ultimately.
Right.
But in terms of the responsibility, they either both or together responsible.
Yeah.
The landlord is always responsible.
Yeah. But your hope, my sense of what you're saying this morning, Prakash, is that you're hoping that it doesn't have to go the litigation route. That
hope.
Yeah, that it doesn't have to go that route.
I truly hope so, for the sake of the families, right? For the sake of the taxpayers, because this will be expensive litigation. Whether we're doing it free, the other side will be paid, right up to Privy Council if necessary. And we've seen, and that's why I took the Wassa example. It's an obscene one when you look at the facts of that case. And maybe you should have a word with Mr. Larry Lala, who did that case on beginning to end, right? And what the Privy Council had to say, what the Court of Appeal had to say. But yet, we got the accelerated move straight up the line to be rejected again. So that is why I want to avoid it. But trust me, I grew up, I love the courts. I'm an advocate. I enjoy what I do. And in a case like this, it's not just about personal enjoyment. It's about vindication of the conscience of this nation. So if it shall come...
I have to admit a kind of real concern about the entire scenario. And probably because I had the opportunity to interview Christopher Bujam a couple of weeks ago. And it was one of the most difficult interviews I've ever had to do in my entire
You're a
career.
loving soul. You're a loving man, I understand.
And for many, I'm just seeing it and just getting very...
I understand.
It affects me. It's just
me too. It affects all of us associated with it.
Because, I mean, I had to stop in the middle of that interview, which was 90 minutes long, to tell him, just give me a break. Because I couldn't continue when he went through in detail from the point they went in just after 12 on the Friday to the point they got sucked into the pipe, how he crawled through the pipe after having to beg the men to let him go because he was talking to the men, they were begging him and holding on to his foot and saying, don't leave us, to crawling out on the very, I don't think people can understand what it's like to crawl out of a 30-inch pipe with gas and oil and eyes and you're damaged and come out and these men were his brothers, not biologically, but generally, and come out and knowing he spoke to them in his words, begging for the people to go back in. Well, he didn't think he was going to survive, but the fact that he survived, this is his words. We're going to play it back next week. Felt that there was a chance because he spoke to all but one. Is in the interview he told me he heard the voices and communicated with all but one, and came out and didn't understand why there was a reluctance or resistance to go back in and try to save his friends and his colleagues. And he is now tortured. Why did I live and they died?
Of course, the survivors.
He has not been able to work. And of course, because of the circumstances you have now described related to the company's position of even engaging to offer help, I guess for fear of accepting some sort of liability when you offer the help through legal advice. And I understand that generally is sometimes the case of companies protecting their interests in parentheses. That he's not worked, families have lost their breadwinners, and it's just a really, really awful situation all around. So no matter what happens and who bears the liability financially or otherwise, everyone loses.
There you go.
Everyone loses.
Yes.
You know, and that is the sad thing about it. Everyone is going to lose at the end of this. Money being awarded, if that happens, doesn't mean that anyone wins. and that is the tragedy in this to me.
That is the truth. And that is why it is so important. And I'm so happy you're raising moral and ethical considerations. Because the very least the family should know is that people feel really troubled, saddened that they did not do what they needed to do and apologize to them. Money cannot bring back those lives, but it will help, of course, look after the future of the children. And that's what we're talking about. So that the issue now of Christopher having spoken of the awfulness of what he had to endure, let me tell you, the brotherhood expanded beyond those men. There were divers, the best in the world we had here in Trinidad, who came because they heard and they were ready, willing, able, available to do what was necessary to help save these men, and they were prevented. Men who did not know them before. There's a brotherhood in the very small fraternity of divers, and they turned up there. They came.
But the company's position was that they didn't want to put anyone else at risk, so they made that decision, and I think that will become central in whatever.
Can I address that? Can I address that? There's a simple way if there was legalisms involved. There's a document you make them sign that I do this on my own. I exclude you from any liability. That was available. They had lawyers talking to Paria that night. We raised it in the commission. It was available to them to do that.
But wouldn't the same pain come about if men had gone in there and in fact perished?
If it's a small two syllable.
Yeah, but to be fair, Prakash, the same is not only a legal issue. The same moral and ethical consideration of the company in putting a life at risk, even if that person has said, I waive liability, comes into play here again. So to be fair, it's on both sides.
Yeah, the same families would have been grieving also.
Let me ask you a question, right? And I raise this in my submissions because one of my juniors asked me, Mr. Peterson, who is my dear friend, was in a burning building when I had rushed in. My instinctive answer was yes. Okay, I would rush in to save him. I'm not stupid though. If I realize, wait, my life was seriously in peril, I couldn't go further.
But that's a personal choice. So it's a weird analogy because
thank you very much. That is the point. So persons made personal choices that we were willing, able, available to go. We are the experts. I do this. I have been trained in this. I can do it. So you are saying now that I wouldn't allow them the privilege to do so if they're willing to sign a waiver? That wasn't raised with them. There was a lockdown on any effort. So those are issues, I think, and this is one of the best interviews really because we are coming on to the most crucial and critical issues here. If you have available resources, willing, able, whatever, there's nothing in life without risk. Crossing the road is one of them. I understand, Paul, that you put yourself in a safe room sometimes, right? Before you came on. I'm joking, of course. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing without risk. And the very nature of the industry, let me just finish this. The very nature of the industry requires risk. And that you had persons who had the capacity, even under law, under OSHA, to try the rescue. And you prevent them, even though they may have been willing to sign a waiver so that if you're concerned more about liability than lives, that problem would have been taken from you. No, there's no excuse, no explanation, no answer to this. And you're so right, nobody wins in this. We wish that we had the hands of time available to us to go back before the incident, but we don't. Mm-hmm. Moving forward, what do we do? When persons still hold office, incident management team that says the actions were excellent. What happens in the event of another similar disaster?
I don't know that the description of using the word excellent could be applied in any case in this case.
Let me paint this scenario.
Let me just finish this. That is the evidence of one of the senior members of the incident management team. Yeah. That is the assessment months after. Sat there and I told him, take your time and answer. Drink your water. Take a deep breath. He reflected and said, excellent. And it was
I think that the use of that word is so insulting, it's not funny.
But it is the reality of the evidence under oath.
Let me just quickly paint this scenario, guys. Because at the end of the day, it's about maybe personal decisions afterward, right? So a group of men came forward. This is a scenario I'm painting and say, we have the expertise. Let's go in there and save them. And a company is saying, no, we cannot allow you to go in there. We shouldn't allow you to go in there. But guess what? If you sign this waiver to say if you die or if anything happens to you, that is your business. Is that a scenario that could have worked in terms of a company? Won't we be here saying if something had happened that the company was highly irresponsible still at the end of the day?
It is open to anybody to say anything, but yes, it was doable, workable, and it was the option that was available to save lives. There were no other options. So what do? You don't exercise the one option available to you and let them die?
But what? So I'm asking, was that actually an option that these men say, let me sign a waiver absolving you?
Absolutely, it would have been, but they were all prevented from even the son, Michael. He was willing to go back.
Did that come out in testimony in the inquiry?
Let me just be clear. All right, we're saying that was open to them if they had concerns about liability to get their lawyers to advise them on the issue of waiver.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but men, they were not thinking. The guys who turned up there, the brotherhood, right, they weren't considering legalisms. They were there to do so that if, pause for a moment, because it's important to crystallize this, if the concern of Paria was the legality of this thing, they had legal advice available to them. This is open to you to get a waiver, but that was not pursued. They just locked it down and shut it out.
And for argument, would you respond to someone who says, from Paria's perspective, the persons who bring themselves were acting on emotional as opposed to reason?
Where's the distinction in a circumstance like that? How do you segue it out until artificial intelligence and the robots come in? How do you?
No, I think that's a stretch because I think it's a reasonable question.
Yes, but whom amongst us, in whatever we do not have some level of emotion? Because if I'm not motivated emotionally to do something, I may not use my expertise to assist.
No, but we draw references earlier on, or I draw reference earlier on, as to rescuers going into a cave.
Yes.
Who may or may not be, in most cases, are not related to the persons they're trying to rescue.
There you go.
And their objectivity is not, and I'm using the word clouded very, very carefully here.
Yes.
By the emotions of their family or friends in the cave. And in this case, it seemed, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the persons who were volunteering had some connection to the persons who were trapped in the pipeline. And that may have been a consideration because they are acting out of a need to save their families, a quite noble need and an urge, a natural instinctive urge, as opposed to a trained rescuer who is going in objectively and methodically because he or she is not impacted by the emotion of the moment. Is that not a reasonable?
When some of the divers who turned up, the experts, weren't some of them not family members? That's what you said, Prakash.
Right, well, then I didn't know that, but that is the response to the question.
So I could appreciate that argument in relation to Michael, the son. All right? I could appreciate that. But exactly the point. There were persons who did not know these men, who turned up here, and we are heroes amongst us in this country still, thank God. Right? Who turned up, experts, qualified, divers, unemotional, to the extent that it would not have impeded their judgment. Objectively saying, I can do this. I'm ready, willing, available. I'm here.
Is it that it was considered too late when that happened? Is that what happened?
No, you see, no one is certain as to the time of death. What we do know, there were hours at most. And these men were available within the time frame. Because they were, if I recall, and I'm subject to correction here, they were still here and banging on the pipes.
Right.
And how material is the subsequent information that came out in the inquiry of the autopsy conducted when, and I believe, I stand to be corrected, that Paria would have made sent out a press release at one point saying, we believe this is now a recovery effort and not a rescue effort because we believe the men have perished, which turned out to be in contradiction to the autopsy report, which suggested the men may have lived longer than that. Is that a correct assessment of the situation?
Which is why I asked the question.
And how material is that in the legality of it?
It will be very material because your assessment of death, time of death, is critically important. Now, there was on the board at Paria at around 4:30, a presumption in a way that could be interpreted that all was lost by 4:30. And I believe that colored the determination moving forward, that there was no real need to rescue, but it hadn't come out clearly that was so. But when Christopher turned up alive, that changed everything dramatically, in my view, and says the men are right behind me. You understand? They are alive. They are right behind me. So whatever your initial instinct was, you knew that men were alive. Around and shortly thereafter, that time you had experts who were available. They're twin brothers I know who had turned up, and they were willing to do what was necessary, and they were prevented. There's no answer to that one. As you say, Paul, no one takes any comfort in this. Even if it was a horrible movie, a fiction, it would be a tragedy that will leave us a little bit scarred. But this is a reality in Trinidad and Tobago. So there's no winning here. There's only trying to do the best we can in awful circumstances. So
tell me something.
Highlighting some of the issues here.
Yeah. Tell me something. In terms of the response of Paria at the time, was international assistance sought in terms of any rescue effort, or that did not come into play at all? Because, of course, the industry is an international industry where accidents similar would have occurred wherever else in the world in some way, and where that expertise could have been pulled in beyond the people who appeared who were experts. I can't remember in terms of listening to the riveting testimony, because it was riveting. I think the country was riveted by that commission of inquiry in terms of how it played out. But I can't remember whether international expertise was started to pour in terms of how the rescue could have occurred.
No, nor can I recall that any effort was made that night. But to be fair to Paria, international resources, the time frame for that, if they did make the effort.
But are there other multinational companies in Trinidad and Tobago who may have had some sort of expertise?
To clarify that, to be fair to Paria equally, they made contact with some diving companies, but that they came in much later, and there was a requirement. Now they became more officialdom rather than a humanitarian effort. But the gentlemen, the divers who in any event were qualified, had been there at the relevant time when life was still viable, right? And there was a wait for cameras to go in and assess, and so at the end of the day, the awfulness of it is there was one of the breathing tanks that had been upright and may have created a little hindrance that you could just easily push to the side and make way and go in. So, I sympathize in a way with the failures of Paria, but these are not issues of men who didn't have responsibility, men and women who had responsibility, therefore the necessary training. You're an incident management team. Therefore, the likelihood of a disaster occurring, you had to be trained and had the mettle to deal with issues and to take decisions that no mere novice should be furnished with. And they failed.
Who would have been responsible for that? Paria or LMCS?
All of them.
Both of them.
All of them, with all due respect.
So how much of this is going to switch between, because one of my interpretations I walked through, it was both sides protecting their reputations and saying, well, it's not us to blame, it's the other side to blame, or it was a case that we could not mount a safe rescue. So I got the impression that it was that kind of scenario, and it may also end up in that scenario if it goes further in terms of civil matters being filed.
There you go. So that is why, at the end of the day, if it has to go to litigation and a court will make a decision, so be it. But we cannot afford the luxury of the families being left. When the elephants do battle, it's the grass that suffers.
Yeah.
African problem, which is true. Yeah. And therefore, all we are asking for in these circumstances, and we will stay with this to the end, I assure you. But our input now is really looking after the families and give them some level of comfort that people can. Look, the outpouring of love of this nation has revived me in a way. I thought that we were numb to this. But the average Trinidadian feels, and they feel severely about injustice and wrongfulness.
Yeah.
All they want to see now is officialdom sharing in that level of a harmonious connect between those who have authority and power and those who are the like us.
I could just ask her one thing, justice, whatever that means, however it turns out. Just one question on a totally different thing as we close.
Sure.
You're done with politics?
Is that a question? I am very comfortably ensconced in my practice, which I have developed for 30 odd years. In terms of the politics,
battles cast too much.
Every single day I'm bombarded with requests. And so I say I leave it to the hand of God, which I always do in circumstances like
which
that.
Which means it's a possibility. Mr. Ramada, thanks for being with us.
There's always a possibility. God bless you all. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks, Mr. Ramada.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prakash.
You all have a great weekend. Be safe.
All the best to you, Mr. Ramada.
Thank you. God bless. Take care.
Okay, take care.
Oh, it's the weekend already. I can't believe it. Anyway, folks, have a wonderful weekend. Be careful on the roads. Look out for the young ones. Remember to let go and let God. Richard, I have to call you. We have a serious discussion to take place.
What?
Okay.
Serious discussion to take place.
So, of course, the weekend has begun. It is Friday. So enjoy it. There should be a smile on your face. Lots of liming to be had over the weekend. It's also a pay weekend. Am I right? Yes, it is. So lots of people will be out, having fun. I want to say congrats to Penelope Spencer. I went to the Necessary Arts graduation show last night at Central Bank Auditorium. It was called The Christmas is the Cure. And there were lots of little playlets with the graduating class of young and older actors, and it was thoroughly entertaining. I had such a wonderful time. I lined with Deborah Buku Mason and Nikki Crosby, so three of us sat down there watching it, and it was really entertaining. Well done to the 32nd cycle of Penelope Spencer's Necessary Arts graduating acting class at Central Bank Auditorium. And Penny, wonderful work. So have a fantastic day, whatever you do.
All right. Thank you so much, Richie Rich. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We'll chat bright and early come Monday morning again. Yeah, Monday.